I hope you give yourself like every night you think about all the people you're inspiring, because like money is stuff, like money and all the paychecks aside, I think the amount of people you've moved, yeah, kudos to you, man. I hope that you have a long life in this whole lecturing thing, because this is
Oh,
honestly
thank
where
you.
you belong.
You're
So,
so kind. Thank you so much.
but no, I mean, aside from all the positives and people pleasing, which is what we're doing right now, some of the hardest things in the world is having a tough conversation. Now, this is the part where I tell you the constructive feedback of what you could have improved on that from that weekend.
Oh
I'm
God.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Tears of
Oh
joy gonna turn into
God.
tears of sadness right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. You're like, man,
No,
you're gonna break me now.
no, but honestly, like that was one of the things that I talked about was tough conversations, because it's so easy to compliment people and to be nice and to say all the nice things that they did. But what happens when you're not that actually that good, or the person across from you needs improvement? So it was funny how I think one of the talks that I had, and I think I was going over it, and Akil came to me and he said, "Oh, I actually wrote down some of the things that you kind of brainstorm before you have a tough conversation." I said, "Yeah, like I'm really good at giving compliments, but I get nervous when I have tough conversations." So I don't know about you guys. Do you guys get nervous? Like you have a pit at the bottom of your stomach?
Like when we're public speaking.
No, just
Oh,
when you have to like give criticism. Like what if
Oh, hell
something
yeah.
wasn't good in someone's speech? Like how do you tell them? Do you tell them? Or you're just like, I'm never gonna watch this person ever again?
Akil, I'll let you take that one, man.
Well, you get all the praise and I just have to I just have to answer the tough questions. What's this?
Yeah.
Wait, aren't you supposed to be answering questions? Like, isn't that how this
Oh
works?
wait, I mean, I love to answer questions after I hear your feedback on
No,
how
but I
you.
think yeah, I think it's tough to have hard conversations, and I've heard so many ways to go about it, and I've tried them all, and none of them have been successful. Like, like the sandwich method, started off good, then hit them with the sucker punch, and then just ended off well as well. Um, honestly, I found that I'm pretty brutally honest with a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of the people I know. So it's like it's hard to catch. I find it hard to be fake, which is kind of a good thing. So I think when I am upset, I'm very clearly upset, and you don't really have to ask whether I'm upset. It just kind of shows my face. But that's the way I found that works best for me. If I kind of try to sugarcoat it or butter it up, I find it just ends poorly for me, because then I either don't say what I mean, and then it's kind of mutually not beneficial, or I just dance around it and then never actually get to the actual point of it. So I don't know. What about you guys?
Man, it's such a hard question, but I've learned something. No one likes criticism, no matter how you spin it. People don't like to be criticized. So B, why do it? And I've taken the approach of I just don't criticize people or give them feedback that's negative. I encourage everyone. Um, it's not always the best scenario, but I find, you'll never hurt someone's feelings by giving them a positive, response to something that may not have been the best. And, at least you're trying to show that they've tried. But yeah, I try to stay away from criticism if possible, but I know that's not what you want to hear, because I can see it on your face and you're about
Ooh,
to bust
okay,
me up.
so let me twist this. What, like, have you guys gotten criticism recently or in the past in your like last decades of life? Like, has anyone ever sat down with you and
Decades, hours,
Decades. How about, like, yeah,
criticize all the
daily, man?
time.
What are you talking about?
no, no, wait, not like what your parents, like I'm talking about from a stranger. Like, do you ever remember at the back of your mind someone's giving you constructive feedback that actually hurt, but then you used it?
Constructive, or like they were just mad at you?
Ooh, no, like constructive, like from a workplace or from, I think Akil's still a dental student. So I guess you get criticism and feedback from your instructors, I'm assuming. And like how do they deliver it? Does it ever hurt you? Do you go home, cry about it? Do you take it with a grain of salt? And, I'm assuming you as well, Nick, you've been through life. I'm sure people have had opinions and certain things.
So
And do
like,
you remember anything that someone's ever told you and said, you know what, I think you could do this better?
Akil, should we let her in on Dr. Ti?
Oh no.
Dude,
I heard that in the podcast. I've done all my homework. I know exactly what Dr. T.I. said.
Dr. T.I., if you live for the highs, you die by the booze. So
Yeah.
you got to be ready with that criticism.
gotta be stoic.
You got to be, well, you need to get that criticism. Unfortunately, I don't think I get it enough. And I think my partner, like my girlfriend, she would say the same thing. She's like, Nikki, you get credit for everything. And whether you have a large hand to play in it or a small hand, you always get the credit. And people don't really, they're too scared to say anything bad to you. And I'm like, I don't know how I cultivated that. Like, I feel like I am pretty open and I admit my errors more so than the next person, but I don't get that feedback that I feel like I should be getting. And Akil, you're in dental school, so you get smacked down daily.
Yeah.
Especially at U of T, Toronto.
Yeah, especially at U of T. But Sanya, what do you got for us here? What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I look back at life, I think I grew the most by being hurt and by being told that I needed to change, I needed to improve. And and similar to you, Neki, like I don't always get it from people without me asking for it. But I genuinely go out of my way to ask for it sometimes because it opens a kind of a door to the conversation that everyone's afraid to bring up on their own. But every time I get a new job, or even if I've been in that job for a little while, I almost always, at the end of my days, I say thank you to my assistants, my staff, and I always ask them, is there anything I can do better? Please, please, please tell me, like at least one thing. Like I actually probe them for it because I know everybody has things that they will say behind your back anyways, especially if you're starting off in a new place. They'll talk about you with their cliques, with their, the friends that they have in that clinic. And so you might as well get them to say it to your face instead of saying it behind your back. So I almost always, even if I've been there for a year, I know I've had a tough day or a tough procedure, I'll actually turn to my assistants and my staff and I'll say, please guys, how do you think I could have done that better? Or how do you think I could have improved that situation? So yeah, I'm like big on that, very big on that.
How do you know, first of all, I think that's awesome, but how do you know that they're being sincere? Because I find when you ask for feedback, especially negative feedback, I don't get it. Like I find people are more likely to talk about you behind your back than be like, hey, tell me how I can improve. And they're like, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to hurt your feelings, right?
I think I've been in the dental game for a long time as not just a dentist, but as like a dental assistant, as a steri tech, as a receptionist. And I've learned that people will almost like, especially because it's mostly female driven, the staff is mostly female driven. And I've noticed that they will talk about the associates and about the bosses when they're not in the room. Like I've been in their shoes and I've seen it and I know when they do it and I know how they do it. So I think for that reason, I know that there's always going to be something they want to say, especially if it's been a really long day and it's that you see some people are stressed. I almost always open the door and say, please, give me anything that you think I could have done better. And in terms of sincerity, I think that comes from the type of person that you're asking. There's gonna be always two types of people in the world that are working with you or for you. Is the ones who want to collect a paycheck and leave. They don't care about your growth. They don't want to improve you because they don't care. They genuinely don't care. And then the second type of people where they're not doing it for a paycheck. Even if you didn't give them a raise for 5 years, they'll still stay because they genuinely care about you. They want you to grow. They want you to be better. And they're the type of people that you should be asking for feedback. So you need to figure out the type of people that you're working with first, right? Are they there for a paycheck or are they there because they genuinely care about you? And I think once you kind of establish that, there will be feedback and people will give it to you if you're asking the right type of people. So yeah, I mean, sincerity will come from people who care about you, right? And if they are constantly telling you there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can change, then I don't know, it's going to be really hard for you to be better unless you kind of point to yourself and say, I need to grow, I need to be improved. But it's hard because I think you need to hear it from other people and which aspect you need to grow in. So yeah, I opened the door for other people to criticize me because that opens the door for me to actually get them on the page that I need to be on and for them to be on with me. So it kind of goes both ways. And I open the door for them to criticize me first. So it kind of makes it more acceptable for me to go and give them feedback, right? Yeah, so it goes both ways. And I think that we covered that in the talk that I was giving with Akil. I said, you know, if you want to give criticism, or if you want your staff to improve or do certain things your way, you need to be able to not dish out, but also receive that criticism in return. So yeah, I don't know.
So
I wonder if you guys are going to say that you guys are going to go get feedback more.
I don't know, but I don't know if I need any more feedback. I think I get my fair share. But I mean, let's talk about the, you know, the mother of all messes of feedback, which is social media. You know, you have a fairly large social media following of, you know, like 10,000 Instagram followers, and you know, it's not the least vulnerable social media page either, because you're singing and you're actually showing a talent of yours. How do you manage, you know, constructive feedback / criticism when it's delivered by people that you don't even know, or that they don't know you?
Yeah, that I think, and it's like a mindset change. I always say, and it took me a long time to get to this level of, can I swear on this podcast or no?
Oh yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, perfect. But you know, like the not giving a fuck attitude, but still giving a fuck. And I always say to people, like, you have to think of where it's coming from without just kind of looking at the actions and the way that they gave it to you, the feedback. So a lot of people will focus on the delivery of the feedback, their tone of voice when they're giving it to you. They won't necessarily think about the intentions that people had. So if, let's say, Neki said to me right now, you know what, this top just looks so hideous on you and you need to change it, right? I know Neki is going to be delivering that in a really nasty way, because in my head, I'm going to say, oh my God, he could have done that in a much nicer way. You know, he could have said it privately. He could have typed it instead of saying it on the podcast, but his intentions were good. He was trying to make me look good on the video. His intentions were that I don't want Sanya to look like a fool, right? Constructive feedback comes from someone has good intentions. They might just not have the best delivery. So I think we focus so much on the delivery sometimes that we forget that the person's intentions are actually good, right? And it took me a long time to understand that and to actually wrap my head around. And I would say it repeatedly, their intentions were good, their intentions were good, until I actually started to believe it, because the first instinct is to just focus on how they said it and not what they're saying and why they're saying it, right? And so every time I get feedback from a stranger, I go, oh my God, they took time out of their day to improve a stranger, which is me. They took time out of their day to type something up that, you know, I remember this one person that said, oh, you bite your lip too much while you sing. And I thought, oh my God, I actually do, you know? And at first I thought, what a rude comment to write. Like, just focus on the singing. Like, my lip biting is not really relevant in the singing video. But it was funny because it helped me improve. And I said, you know, I'm going to keep this comment instead of deleting it, because this person took time out of their day to literally criticize a stranger, which was me, to help me improve. Their intentions were good.
Man, Sanya, like, haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes if I get messages from strangers too, not about my singing because I can't sing, but more about like, hey, I don't agree with you know what you're doing, or I don't like the way you did this, or whatever. And I automatically I get defensive, and then B, I say to myself, you know, like, why am I going to let this person sit inside my head when I'm already in their head and I don't even care? Do you know what I mean? So that's how I've always reacted to those comments. I just deflect them and saying, you know what, I'm sitting in his head and he's thinking about me more than I'm thinking about him. So I don't really care. But like, how do you like, how did you create that mindset where you're just so positive? Because I get defensive.
Yeah, no, I used to get defensive. And I think at the end of the day, I have Indian parents. And I think I learned that. Yeah, I know, all three of us do. Yeah. And I think the criticism that comes from Indian parents is the delivery is terrible. Like, honestly, my parents have zero skill in delivering something kindly. And I think I constantly had to remind myself their intentions were good. And that's honestly how I got myself to take everything that my parents were saying seriously, because constantly I would block it out. Right. And so the whole me repeating to myself, their intentions are good, their intentions are good, is something that I literally started using, not just on my parents, but to everyone. And it was so funny because it literally changed the way that I accept feedback, but also give feedback. So if you can actually, when you're giving feedback to people, show that your intentions are good by almost saying it at the beginning of the delivery of the criticism, it plants a seed in their head that you genuinely care about them.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny because a sandwich technique is great. I can say, Neki, you have great glasses, but you know, your voice is not my cup of tea. A sandwich technique is great, but you know that it's a sandwich technique of two very different topics there, right? So I think if you can remind someone that I care about you, I want to help you, my intentions are good, and I know what I'm about to say might hurt you, but hopefully you can trust me to know that this is only going to improve you, right? And by saying those things, by starting that sentence off, I think it plants a seed in their head that, okay, this person actually does care, right? And I think they accept it in a far better, like, I've made people cry in the clinic sometimes when I give them criticism, like my staff, and I always laugh because they say, you're the boss I want to work for, even though you've made me cry. And I go, what? Right. And some of these girls that I've, you know, given criticism to, I've done it from a good place. And I've only said that line to them in the beginning, so they know that I'm coming from a good place. And some of these girls I don't work with anymore, but they still send me messages saying, oh, I wish you could come back. You know, it's just so quiet and, you know, not the same without you. And I always laugh because I don't think they remember the times I made them cry. Like, I genuinely have made these girls cry from criticism, but they forgave me because my intentions were good. And I reminded them that my intentions were good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you take like are you accepting like bad newsograms? Like, if I have to give bad news, will you accept me to send you instead? Is that something you're interested in?
Please do.
And like wear a costume, throw balloons.
No,
Yeah,
but how
exactly.
do you guys do, like, say you have a patient that you have to deliver bad news to? Like, how do you do that? Because I know, Neki, you have a very positive attitude, right? Like, you have a big smile, you have a really positive outlook. Like, how do you erase all that and go serious mode? And what do you say?
I don't think, you know, I think that's why I'm a dentist and not a real doctor.
Oh my God. Stop. You're going to get some hate on this podcast from
No,
dentists.
I'm not, because I'm serious. That's why I went into dentistry, because I don't want to have those life-changing conversations with people. The worst news I have to give is, like, you know, your lip is numb after I took out your wisdom tooth. This is, you know, what the stages are. This is why we talked about the risk, but I'm going to be here with you every step of the way. And here's my cell phone number, and we're going to talk it out. And whenever you have a problem or you need something, you're going to call me. And you just show that you're there with them along this journey of shit. And no matter what it is, you're going to be there for them. And I think that's all people want to hear. And that's my bad news, man. That's how I deal with it.
You did everything that I just said. You showed that you cared. You showed that you cared about
them. Who's
them.
teaching this course here? Who's teaching this course?
It's true though, because you showed that you cared about them. You showed them, I care about you because I'm here with you every step of the way. You showed that you could help them because you said, here's my number and I'm here to help you anytime you need something. And you showed that they can trust you because you are the doctor. And so you did all the three things that I just said. So it's amazing how you say that in a sentence, but you just use different words to say it, right? But you, exactly how you phrased it, you showed those three things that everybody looks for, right?
Yeah, Akil, are you taking notes, bro?
No,
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm here all night. You need more info?
I got access to all that I want.
Yeah. I mean, Neki just said it in a really nice way. And yeah, but if you said those exact same things and you started the conversation with that, I care about you and I want to help you and I want you to be, comfortable knowing that you can trust me to help you. That's all you need to say. Like, that is the perfect script. And Neki, you did it perfectly. You just used different words. Yeah, you just used different words. So it was amazing. Like, you're already doing bad conversations, difficult conversations effortlessly without even knowing that you're doing it effortlessly. Right?
Nick, are you like my personal hype woman here? Like, I feel like you're just pumping me up nonstop here. I'm gonna get my feedback at the end of this episode. Hey,
no, but
it's a long sandwich technique.
Long sandwich, yeah.
The Subway sandwich technique.
The Subway, the 12-inch technique.
I love it.
So how do you when you are saying, I'm here for you, I'm going to be by your side, how do you do that without sounding, because I feel like this technique works for Neki, works for you. I feel like I'm a bit more stoic, so I feel like if I go, hey, I'm here for you, I'm there with you, I love you, it's like it doesn't sound right coming from me, right?
Because you don't care, man.
What?
Yeah. Okay, well, you do need to ask yourself, right, Akil, like, do you actually genuinely care? Like, do you actually care?
But it's just not my demeanor. Like, it's not my demeanor to be like, demeanor,
but you care.
For you. Yeah, of course I care. Like, of course I care. I would say, but I don't even, like, when I tell my parents I love you, I'm like, I don't, like, my girlfriend, she'll go to her parents and I give her a big hug. She's white, so like that's acceptable. Big hug and like, a big kiss and like this and that. And it's just like, I love you. They like embrace for like minutes and minutes. And I like see my dad and I give him a handshake. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? It's like Same. That's just how I am. That's my demeanor. I'm very like, I think good or bad. I'm not very expressive. So how does someone like that go about executing something like what you're preaching?
Yeah, I think the tone of voice matters, obviously, right? Like, I mean, the only difference is that your tone of voice is definitely far more, it feels more detached, like you're there for them, but you're almost keeping a boundary, right? Like, it feels like you have a boundary, whereas Neki and I are more, there for you. I kind of picture Neki kind of touching a patient's shoulder and saying, you know what?
Yes, every single patient, man or woman, hand on the shoulder, dude, I got you.
Yeah.
Or I got you. Yeah.
But the problem is with Neki, like you and I, Neki, we can get away with that. And like Akil has a point, because some people, it feels awkward, right?
Who's the creep putting my hand on putting their hand on
that's my
shoulder,
first right? That's my first thing that goes to my mind. I'm like, I don't want to touch someone. Like that's strange to me. Yeah. Like I'm not an expressive person like that.
Yeah, but in this day and age as well, I think as a male practitioner, you also have to be a little cautious, right? Because in this day and age, you are dealing with people who are making claims that perhaps aren't true, but can be taken very seriously just, if they make a claim. And so I think as a male practitioner, you kind of do have to focus on your tone of voice. And I mean, Neki can probably get away with touching a shoulder, but I think Akil, you might actually, it might look forced, right? It might look like you're actually being told to touch their shoulder. Yeah, and it'll feel scripted and it'll feel forced and it won't feel natural. And so for you, Akil, it's almost like you have to show care by literally just keeping the tone of voice that you have and almost using the words to tell them, listen, man, like dentistry is not, and I know I'm talking about dentistry right now and not as a whole, but dentistry, I always tell people, you don't get a medal for having perfect teeth at the end of life, right? And if that's the kind of attitude you have, like those are the things that I would be saying. Yeah, like no one's gonna give you a medal for having all your teeth. Like if you lose one or two, man, like no big deal. But I just want you to know, like, I care about you. Like I care about your teeth and I care about you getting back on track, right? And so you don't have to be like, I care about you and I want to help you and I want you to trust me. But you can, use words that say, like, you lose one or two, you lose a few, not the end of the world, man. Like I'm here for you for all the other things going forward. Like that's all that matters, is moving forward, you're not alone. And I think that even saying a line like that and saying it with a very, stoic kind of voice and more serious, I think people will listen to it because you have that laid back attitude. And you don't need to say all those cheesy words to get there.
Well, what I think is, because I think there's a lot of people that are similar to me, at least that I know in my circle, probably that's selection bias, but
UFT.
yeah, exactly. Sure, whatever. But it's there's a lot of people like me, and what I found in my particular scenario, you know, like you said, it'd be forced if I were to like, you know, be like, I'm here for you. And it's like that doesn't sound right for me, right? I'll start to sweat immediately because that's
Yeah.
not being authentically me. But what I found that actually works quite well is I can relate to patients, you know, that are sort of similar to me. You know, if the patient comes in and they seem anxious, I'm like, you know, like my mom hates the dentist and I'm a dentist, right? It's like I can
Perfect.
relate to them in like in
like
another
that.
way. I don't really necessarily need to be like, they're there,
Yeah.
they're there, right? Like it's like,
And I say the same thing too. And I say, you know, I hate the dentist. And my brother's my dentist. So like that's not fun at all. And I tell people I am more scared of people that come in and they say they love needles, because that to me is a psychopath, right? Like nobody should be walking into my clinic saying I love needles. Like no. So I'm like, thank you for being, you know, a human being and having real emotions and saying you're afraid of the dentist and scared of needles, because so am I, right? Aren't we all? So yeah, no, I think you're perfectly right there. I think if you can make yourself relatable and tell, even if you're not scared of needles, so just pretend like you are, just so they don't feel alone,
I
right?
thought it was so funny. I live in Alberta, and the Alberta Dental Association makes us complete this 3-hour sexual harassment like CE course basically in order to get our license. And I was shocked. They were like, you know, don't touch a patient, don't put your hand on their shoulder. And I'm like, every single patient, I probably put my hand on their shoulder and say, hey, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. This is all I know how to do. If you needed a veneer, you don't come see me because I don't even know how to do it. Whatever, but I can take your tooth out for you. I know you're in pain. I know you're freaking out, but I'm going to take care of you. I promise. And you look them in the eye and you put their hand on their shoulder, and there's not one person in this world that would take that negatively. But I see what you're saying. You got to have that personality, right? Like you can't just, there's no such thing as fake empathy, and people can see right through you if you're, if you're being fake. So, you know, I don't think you have that. You don't have that negative or fake empathy in you at all. I think your patients absolutely love you just from, you know, what I'm hearing from you and your personality. How do you build like your patient base? How have you created a name for yourself? Because I've heard about you before that you have this following, and I don't know how long you've been a dentist for. I don't think it's been, you know, years and years. So how did you develop this following?
I genuinely did word of mouth. I've never spent a dime on marketing. I've never paid people to come through the door and see me. I always knew I could never ever compare to people in my dental field clinically, because I know that there's going to be people who have decades of more experience than me. They're going to be far superior than me in certain aspects of dentistry. And I knew that I couldn't compete, like, especially in my first year out, I can't compete. I was working in clinics where I had dentists in the same clinic as me who've been doing it for 20 years, and they charge the same as what I charge for a resto or an
That's a
endo.
very good point. I never thought of that before.
Yeah,
Someone with
and
zero experience is charging the same thing according to the fee guide that someone with 25 years out. I never,
correct.
what a great point. I
Yeah.
love that.
And
Yeah.
I thought my mom came in, and I remember it was a couple of first months in, and I said to her, you know what? No, mom, like go and see Dr. X. Like I just got in the game, right? And like you're my mom and I want the best treatment for you. And it's funny to me because you would want the best for your mom, but also at the same time, like you are doing stuff on other people, right? Like it's so funny how I was like, I don't want to be there for my mom, but I kind of have to be there for other people. And so my mom said, no, you know what, do it. Like it's okay. Like who cares? It's not like if something goes wrong, we'll do it again. And so she believed in me. And I thought that was awesome. And I got my dad to hold the suction and kept telling her she had a really big tongue and we should just chop her tongue off. But I mean, at the end of the day, you are treating patients, like I said, with zero experience, and there's someone next door who has 25 years of experience doing the same thing. And I have to convince patients somehow to come see me instead of the principal dentist who's been doing it for decades. And to me, I thought I can't compete clinically. Like I can't, and I won't be able to tell anyone, I might dye my hair gray. That might convince them a little bit, but I can't do it. So I thought I need to be different. Like I need to do something differently. And if I can't do it clinically, like with, my resto or my endo, then I have to do something with my communication skills or something that makes me like I have a unique selling point. So I started doing, I know this sounds crazy, but I started doing these little eye masks under the eyes, and I would go and buy them myself, and like little eye serum masks. And I thought, I'm going to give people a dental spa feel. Like they're going to have their mouth open for a little bit, and I'm going to put these eye serum masks on so they feel like they're like in a spa for that, 30 or 45 minutes. And I know that my principal dentist isn't doing this. And I know that the dentist down the street is also not doing this. So this is different. So I also started incorporating like 30 seconds of like little head massages in between. Like, they keep their mouth open, and I'm like, a little massage while my assistant goes and gets the next step ready or steps out of the room to go grab something. My hands are just like doing a little head massage. And the patients started saying to me, I've never had a dentist do this to me before. And to me, I thought, perfect. Like my alarm bells were ringing. I said, this is how I'm going to stand out, because these people who have been doing it for 20 years and 25 years, they don't do this stuff because they don't need to. They have a patient base. They don't need to be different. They can keep doing what they're doing and they'll have a patient base. But for me, I became different. And soon enough, like some of these patients that have been coming to that clinic for a few years wanted to see me because I was doing some of these extra additional things that they have never gotten before. And from there, it went on to, I want to introduce you to my dad, my mom, my sister, my cousin. And that's how my patient base grew. And yeah, I mean, nowadays it just kind of very naturally, knock on wood, has grown organically. And like I said, I haven't paid a single dime for it. I just used my hands to be different, not just in the mouth, but outside the mouth. So yeah.
So are you, yeah, my understanding is you're still associating, right? Or do you have your own practice now?
Yes. So like my brother and I was trying, I do want to get into my own, like completely my own. And my parents have always said, go get into it with your brother. He's also a dentist. And I've never been a huge supporter of a big family business. I think keeping family and keeping business separate is good for my mental sanity, and I think for relationships with your family members.
Good idea.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we do run courses together, and
Great.
There's always a little bit of friction here and there, and I think as long as it's just a little bit of friction and not like a big dental clinic together, I think we can cope with that. But I let my brother kind of open it first. About 6 months ago, he opened, and I was there for the early stages, and it's still a baby clinic. I call it a baby clinic.
Is that in the GTA?
It's in Brantford, Ontario, so it's
Okay.
near Kitchener, Cambridge area. It's more West End.
Isn't that home of Wayne Gretzky?
I think it is.
That's how I know Brantford.
Really? I mean, you might be the only one. Yeah. Most people are like, where's Brantford? But yeah, more West End. No, it's a great town. It's definitely different. And I implemented all those things, the head massages, the eye serum masks. You walk in and you get coffee, tea, cookies, and like the little spa feel that I want to go for.
But is your brother doing that?
He is.
Really?
He is 100% doing it, because I told him, I showed him all the data. Like I showed him, I have implemented these things, and look at how much my patients were advertising on my behalf, because they were taking photos and posting them on social media saying, look at what my dentist does, and honestly, like it grew like wildfire. Like people were advertising on my behalf without me ever asking them to do so. Right? They were putting on these eye serum masks and taking selfies in the dental chair saying, I've never had this done before. So yeah, I mean, 100%, he saw the data, and I showed it to him. I said, it's about 60 cents a pair of each serum mask that you put on these adults' faces, and the kids get a toy anyways, which is about 50-60 cents anyways for a toy. So why can't we do the same thing for adults? Like, why are we just investing on little rewards for the kids but not the adults who actually pay the bill? So yeah, I mean, I everything that I implemented into the clinic, I I keep a whole data sheet of if it's working, how much I've invested into it out of my own money, like on my own pocket, and if it's working or not. So yeah, I mean, it's worked so far, and he implemented it, and it honestly, for a baby clinic, it's been open for 6 months. It was a startup from scratch. It was a KFC building that turned into a dental clinic. So
can you still smell the chicken?
And you know, it's funny, my brother has a banner on the outside. It says, instead of serving fried chicken, now we're serving fillings. Like, it's just so weird because the whole town knows it as the one KFC that was in town, and we changed it into a dental clinic. It doesn't smell like KFC anymore. I wish it did. We should get here.
Totally.
But no, it's doing well. No gaps.
I work with a lot of clinics, and I kind of see this as a common trend whereby, you know, certain practitioners spend a lot of time and money in developing that sort of that soft patient relationship, right? Whether it be having TVs or having these just small value ads, while others completely ignore it whatsoever, right? So it's like a patient just looking at the ceiling tiles. Why do you think that? I've come to my own conclusions, but I want to know from your perspective, because obviously you're skewed on one end of the spectrum. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's such a discrepancy?
For like people that are wanting it?
Well, why do, like, it seems like such an easy solution, right? Like a 50-cent eye mask. Is it an eye mask? Is that the right word for it?
Yeah, it's like an eye serum mask. Yeah, like
eye serum mask. Yeah. So like, why do some
I'm gonna have to
practitioners
Google an eye serum mask because I still don't know what those are.
You don't know what they are? You know, like when like the women are like wearing the little serum mask, and you know, it's funny because the males have never seen it. You've never seen it? Like, you know how you put cucumbers on your eyes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then like, because like without cucumbers, like it's kind of similar feeling. Like, it's a cooling kind of mask that goes under the eyes, and it makes it feel like all like relaxed when you take them off. So
I'm just going to use cucumbers. I think this will work.
Yeah. But yeah, why does it make a big difference? Honestly, it's one of the key things that I said in the very beginning. People care about 3 things. Like, do you care about them? Can you help them? And can they trust you? Right. And one of those things that sometimes dentists really, really are terrible at showing is that you care about the people. And I think by doing these little serum masks, it shows that you care. Like, it shows that you want to relax them. It shows that you're there to give them a good experience. You know, you might not have the words for it, but here is an action for it, right?
Ooh, so I like that.
Yeah, and I think people really genuinely remember it, and it's such a unique experience that people actually say, you know what, like, this dentist goes out of their way to make me feel good. Yeah, and I think that's what people care about. They want to feel good.
Right.
But I absolutely love it. I gotta get one of these eye serum masks.
No, honestly, I'm telling you, 60 cents a patient.
I love it.
If you're doing all these extractions, can you imagine they get up and they're like, oh my God, I feel like a new person now. Yeah.
He was rubbing my feet, and I got this eye serum mask. I love it.
Yeah. No, what about you, Akil? What's your conclusion on it? Why do you think it's so important or not important?
My conclusion's not as sexy and well, you know, articulated, but I just think dentists make enough money as is, and I think some are complacent with the money that they're making and the patients that they're serving, and then, you know, while others, you know, they actually care about that aspect of it, right? So I think for me, I see it as a purely financial decision, right? Even if it's 60 cents, some people are like, my patients are booked for 2 months. Why do I need to add another, you know, an eye mask? Why even bother going to the store to go buy an eye mask? So yeah. I think it comes down to that, because I don't think a lot of dentists, I mean, newer generation, yeah. I don't think some of the older ones really are too worried about it, because they see it more like medicine than you know, like a spa. Like there's this dental practice that just opened down the street from me. It's called Pace Dental. Like, you should see the inside of this. It looks like the MoMA. They must have spent like $1.5 million just building this practice, but you know, just across the street from it is an equally as busy practice that has, you know, like still like the plastic wrap from COVID, like in between the doors. So I think
it's still have to do that.
No, not technically.
Some practices have it and they haven't gotten rid of it. So
yeah. I don't know.
But you know, it's funny though. I always say to people, like, I don't know if you've ever witnessed this, Neki, because I know Akil's still a student, but have you noticed when people leave other practices and they go to you and they say, oh, you know what, I left that practice because the dentist I used to see for the last 20 years has retired.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like he was my childhood dentist, or he's a dentist that I've seen all my life, and now he's left. And I have found that people will stay in practices that might not have, what Akil is saying, like they don't have a TV at the ceiling, they don't have the eye care, the little things that make people feel good. They don't have those things, but they have that principal dentist that everyone's attached to. But as soon as you take that principal dentist out of that equation and they go into retirement, people leave, right? People leave because there's nothing really keeping them attached to that clinic anymore. And they know that by paying the same money down the street, they can get a slightly better experience, right? So I think it would be interesting to see in a decade or two when the whole, I think, is it the no, are we millennials or are we Gen? I don't know what we are, but
I'm a Gen Z. I get along with everyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I would be very interested to see what happens to these clinics that don't have these little perks and the principal dentists that have been working there for many decades retire. I would love to see if these patients are going to, stay there, or are they going to drift to these other practices that have that little bit of a Shazam kind of feel.
I totally I hear you. Like, but how are you going to continue to improve and find your ideas? Like, do you look at other industries? Like, are you looking at plastic surgery offices and seeing what they're doing? I just see this side of you that you're a very good researcher.
I do. I very much do. And it's funny, I picked up the eye serum thing from someone that does it in Australia, not in dentistry, but in, like you said, in the dermatology facial plastics clinic.
Yeah.
While they were doing injections on other parts of the face, they said, oh, let me just, cool off your under eye mask. So the person feels like they're getting treatment, even though they're walking out with a swollen face after. They feel like their under eyes were relaxed. But yeah, no, I 100%, you're right, Neki. Like, I get my ideas from other fields, and I think so far it's worked out, but hopefully other dentists kind of take that into account as well. Because yeah, I do feel that a lot of patients are leaving these older practices when the principal dentist is retiring.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think, that's sort of my wheelhouse, and I see that. And I think the younger dentists are, more like you. And I think, like I said, the older dentists are more just looking at it more akin to medicine than they are, a patient centric or a consumer centric viewpoint. Do you see obviously you're naturally confined because, you're not a spa, you're not a dermatology clinic, you're a dentist. People don't like to be there. You're getting injections, you're going to feel some pain. It's not going to be very comfortable. You're sitting there, it's expensive. Do you feel those real confines of the environment you're kind of in?
Yes and no. I mean, what about you, like, Neki? Like, do you think, like, when I say all these things, like, is it crazy when you think, oh my God, why is she doing all of this at a dental clinic?
No, but that's you though. Like, that, this is how you are going to connect with your patient. How you connect with your patient may not be the same way I connect with my patient. And I love it because that is unique to you and your personality. And you can't ask the older generation of dentists who's ready to retire to take on these strategies, because it's a different time in dentistry. Like we were saying, this is, dentistry has moved away from being so healthcare focused to being almost like a customer service business. I always tell my office manager when she's looking for receptionists, I'm like, don't put out ads. Go talk to the Starbucks baristas. Go around and talk to people and see who has the best personality, because that's who's going to be the best person there. And I hire based on personality, not based on skill, because I can teach someone skills, but you can't teach them their personality. And this is unique to you. And I encourage it. I love it. Like, you taught me so much. Like, will I go out and pick up some eye serum patches? I'm sure as hell going to try to. And for those super nervous patients, I'm totally going to do it. But I just love it. What a great idea. Way to go. Way to go.
Yeah, I don't know, but Akil, like, is it confined? It's tough to answer that. Like, do you mean in a sense of like, because it's dentistry, I have to stick myself into like a niche and kind of follow
No,
what?
I think you could only stretch so far, right? Like, I think beyond, the eye mask, that's a really cool add-on. I think, as Nikki said, that's awesome. That's cool that you kind of stepped outside the box. I've never seen that been done, so kudos to you. But there's like a natural, like you're kind of naturally put in a box, whether I don't want to call it a box or not, but it's dentistry at the end of the day, right? It's not. I would love for my patients to come and be like, oh yeah, like I'm ready to have a great time. I kind of just have to manage expectations and be like, listen, it's the needle's going to hurt whether I inject super slow, super fast, the poke's going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, there are natural confines of like clinical dentistry, right? So that's what I'm just sort of getting at is, like, does that frustrate you that you kind of have to work within those, or are you okay working within that sort of sandbox?
I'm actually, yeah, I feel like though there are still so many things that we can do in dentistry to make the experience better. Like, especially with technology just going through the roof right now, I think the whole dental experience is yet to be at its peak. Like, I still think we have a long way to go. I'm still amazed by how so many dental products taste like absolute shit still. Like, they don't taste good at all. And yeah, and there's ways to give injections through certain machines sometimes that actually cause you less pain. There, sometimes people are using local anesthetic that is super cold, and that stings far more than a little bit warmer. Like, there are certain things that people are not doing already. Like, if we actually started implementing the things that are already in our control, I think, like, yeah, we're definitely not doing all the right things right now to be at our best. And it's funny to us because we're private. Like, we're not getting paid by the government. So, like, as a private kind of sector, you would assume that everybody would be on their best game because, there's a dentist in every corner of the street now. But I don't feel like I'm in a sandbox just yet. I feel like there's still so much more that I can implement in the clinic, like so many ideas in my head. But I would have to make sure they work first before I start to like tell people. But yeah, I have so many things that I write down every day. I'm like, oh, I got to implement this and do this and that. And yeah, and if something doesn't work, I tell people, you know what, don't try this. I've tried this. Like, it's a waste of your time. Hot towels and stuff like that. Like, I thought that was a waste of my time. I'm killing the environment by buying those. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that I think I can still implement, and I'm not in the sandbox yet.
That's such a great point. The dental materials that just taste like garbage. Like, that's such an opportunity there. That's really good.
Huge. And I always joke to patients, and when I'm giving them the local, and I say, you know what, I'm so sorry, but this stuff just does not taste good. But I'm hoping before I retire in this lifetime, I get to witness good tasting local anesthetic. Like, I'm just, even the topical like benzocaine that you're putting on that's supposed to taste like strawberries. I once had a kid that told me, I think your strawberries have gone bad because it doesn't taste very good. So yeah, I mean, after like 20 seconds, they all taste like shit. So I would love in the dental field for things to start tasting better.
I'm curious, when you say technology is going to drive the patient experience.
Oh
Yeah, things are going to taste differently. Like, when you say technology, what do you mean? Like, do you mean like 3D printing? Do you mean digital? Like, same day crown bridge? Like, what do you mean
yeah.
that's going to drive
Well,
the patient experience?
my mom's biggest pet peeve in dentistry is impressions. She hates
Totally.
fraudulent impressions. And I'm still amazed by how many clinics, they do the analog way of taking impressions. Like, they don't
Yeah.
have scanners. And I know right now they're really expensive and they're not as accessible, but I know the patient experience is going to be far better moving forward when things become a little bit more accessible. I still think like taking dental x-rays sometimes, like, we're still using in certain clinics not digital x-rays. I'm just like, what's going on?
What? Really?
Yeah, it's crazy,
I didn't
especially
even know
like
that non-digital x-rays
because
existed.
sometimes I'm working in far away places, like doing local work, and like
Yeah.
people just don't have it still. And I'm just amazed. But I know maybe in like a decade or two decades, maybe we'll all kind of be better with more technology, better, tasting, better comfort, and better everything, really, the chairs, and I'm hoping that the patient experiences are going to improve decade after decade. And I hope that people can all buy these local anesthetic machines that actually cause less pain when you're injecting, and people can start to not use local anesthetic that's freezing right out of the fridge. So yeah, I think patient experiences, there's still so much room for growth. We haven't, as dental professionals, hit that peak at all yet.
So I got a question for you, and I'm going to change the topic just a little bit because I'm just dying to ask you. Do you sing to your patients?
It's funny. I actually, as much as I say I don't listen to rap, every time I go in with the injection, I always rap Eminem's song. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. And I always laugh because people are like, what do you mean you only get one shot? And I'm like, because you only get one chance to hit the nerve, right? So yeah, I would start rapping Eminem's song to kind of,
I
pep
like
myself
it.
up.
It
And I'm
breaks the tension too, man.
yeah,
That's
I'm like, you
awesome.
only get one shot. Like, do not miss your chance. So yeah, it's funny. I don't always sing to the patients, but I do have my assistants who are like my biggest hype women, and they always play the songs while I'm, out of the room doing a hygiene check or something. They're like, Dr. Sanya, she sings, and then the patients will see it, and then, I feel like they feel a little bit less anxious when they see that side of me, and they actually feel like I'm not that scary. So I think it plays in my favor, but I don't advertise it. I don't tell everyone, unless they Google me and they just find it on their own. Yeah. So it's kind of fun. But I'm making a song right now for one of my lawyers. Anyone who really helps me, I try and write a song to them as like a little gift. So I'm sure I'll be posting that on Instagram soon. But I love making theme songs for people. It's just so fun. It's honestly so fun to sing about topics that people just talk about but don't sing about. So yeah, don't worry, I'll make you guys one.
we need a theme song, Akil. This is gonna be
Yeah,
wicked.
we need a theme song, so I'm gonna have to sing it now.
I don't know if we can afford the fees. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh no. It's okay. I'll think of it as charity work. My father has always said, give back as much as you can. So
So why did you decide on Instagram to be the singing dentist and not just the singer or the dentist? Like, why incorporate the two? Was that like an intentional branding decision, or was that just a natural progression?
what's really funny? I used to love educating patients, and I used to run a blog called thedentalpen.com. And that blog, it took me so long. I had a bunch of specialists on it, and they had great content, but nobody was really good at writing. So it used to take me so long. They used to give me the content, and I used to make it SEO friendly, and I used to type it all out for them and rewrite it all. And I thought, I'm wasting so much time doing this. Like, I can't do this while I'm working. And I thought, why don't I just turn like patient education into a song? And it literally took me about 10 minutes in the shower to change up the song lyrics of like any popular song and make it dental related. And I posted it on Instagram, and the next morning it was like 10,000 views. And I thought, I did this in 10 minutes. And I sit here and I write blogs, and it takes me weeks sometimes to get it perfect, because writing, you'll never be perfect. Like, you always find something you want to change about it until the minute that you're posting it. But for singing, I thought, you know what, like, this is going to be fun. If people are educated from it or not, they're going to watch it. They're going to be entertained. If they're not educated, that's okay. At least they were entertained. But yeah, I mean, to me, I thought, why don't I combine the two? Like, why am I doing dentistry and singing separately? Because I was just singing a bunch of covers, and I thought, no one's ever going to say I'm going to be as good as the original singer. So if I just change the lyrics, they can't compare me now, right? Like, I mean,
I just love it though.
you
Like,
can't
it's
compare me.
so
Yeah.
okay. Akil, I think we both have to agree. we love you. Your personality is just oozing out of there. And then when you watch it on Instagram, you're like, oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's
but
awesome.
having my Indian mother, she always finds something. She goes, "Why are you wearing black socks with blue uniform? Like, what? It looks so funny." And so, yeah. So for me, I try not to rewatch my stuff because I find that I'll find something that, oh, this note was too pitchy,
Mm.
or this word I didn't enunciate it right. And I try not to rewatch it because I know I'm gonna find flaws in it. But
Can
yeah,
I
no,
ask you a
that was my
question?
strategy. Was my strategy. Combine the
I,
two.
I'm super, and this is a selfish question. Sorry, I know I'm hijacking this conversation here. Do you ever lose your voice
I
as a singer?
do and I don't. I've never been trained. I've never been trained on how to sing, and I wish I had gotten training when I was younger, because they teach you about the breathing, they teach you how to not strain your voice. Um, but I always have tea around me in some way or form. Like green tea and honey and ginger are like my go-to. Throughout the day, I talk a lot with my patients. I talk a lot on podcasts, but I talk a lot and I sing a lot, and I don't sing quiet songs. I usually tend to sing the loud, belting out songs. And when I lose my voice, sometimes I just drink tea. I don't know if this has like magic potion and stuff inside of it, but knock on wood, I have never had any, major problems with singing at the top of my lungs and losing my voice completely. But I think my family wishes I'd lose my voice for but I moved out last week, so
Oh,
they don't get to
congratulations.
hear me. Yeah, they don't get to hear me screeching at the top of my lungs anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, I used to scream at the top of my lungs when I'm trying to get a note out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for the purpose of the podcast, we're happy you retained your voice.
Yeah.
And I'm cognizant of the time. I think we can get you to, I won't even make you sing during the pod, but
That's
but
what I was leading up to. I thought she was gonna
no,
like bust something out, man.
Let's
I
go.
wouldn't
Yeah,
do
see,
that.
now we do.
We already got a little Eminem, so we
Oh
got Ti,
yeah, yeah.
Eminem.
You only get one shot, man. Do not miss
Exactly.
your
Spaghetti.
chance. Don't miss your chance.
Exactly. But it was phenomenal recording with you. Glad we could catch up after Montreal. Figured it was a bit of a different setting and a bit of a different audience too. So thanks for taking the time.
No, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
the
you so much.
positivity. I think you guys really balance each other out. This podcast, you guys are the best co-hosts, like with each other. You have the necky, the constant smiling, the hype, and then you got that kill who like brings it back to reality. So I love it. You guys are bright future ahead of you
I'm
guys.
in the clouds, you're on earth. I love it.
Yeah. No, you always need a dreamer, and you need someone who's realistic in every podcast, right? So someone to keep you on the ground. So you guys are a great, great pair, and I can't wait to hear the rest of your podcast. So thank you for having me.
So Akil, what'd you think of the podcast with Dr. Arora?
It was fun. I thought I saw her speak in Montreal about how to build a patient base. I heard that she was giving face massages to her patients. So I think it was a cool episode. I think a new look on dentistry that I think a lot of the younger generation, the newer generation dentists will vibe really well with, because like we talked about in the episode, like that idea of the sandbox, like how do you get out of the sandbox? And I thought it was pretty confined, and she made a really good point about like just things from like even the dental materials just taste like garbage still. So it's like there's so much room to grow. And I think she's definitely going in the right direction, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, she's all about changing the patient experience. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I really think about that too much. Like I always try to make myself available for my patients and give them that soft side of me that will tell them I'm always going to take care of them. And I do those type of things, but I never really thought about expanding and giving them eye serum mask or massaging their face after a needle. But like I guess I could, but I don't know if that's me. Like I think you have to have that personality to do that. Like let's be honest, dude, if you start massaging your patient tomorrow, I think everyone would be like, dude, I think he's gone over the deep end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. And that's why I asked that question. I was like, well, what about everyone else? Because obviously you're like a very positive, I think I'm a pretty positive guy too, but it's like not in the
Yeah,
same way, right? It's like you're very
totally.
charismatic. I feel like your delivery would be different than someone like my delivery, and my delivery would be someone, somewhat different than, a person even like lower on the rank of like charismatic than me. So I just
Yeah.
wonder, yeah, like how would you transfer those skills to someone who's like, I really don't want to touch a patient. Like I don't want to touch their shoulder sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. Like what kind of skills could you use to convey the similar type of emotional response? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
else have
I
you
think
done
my
other than like
well, I
other
think
than
the
like
answer to that is you become a specialist and then you don't have to give them any of the
dude, I kid you not. My mom's getting her wisdom teeth out. You and I talked about this.
Man, it's about
Um,
damn time.
Yeah, exactly. She's getting her wisdom teeth out. And I'm talking to the specialist over the phone, right? And I'm like, she's like, my son's in the dental program at U of T. Like, I'm just gonna leave the phone here in the middle of the room while, we kind of converse because, my mom's a teacher, she doesn't really know too much about oral health and
Yeah.
she's not like a hygienist or anything. So I'm on the phone with the surgeon and like he said something that pissed me off. He was like, yeah, we need to extract the lower eights or like the lower wisdoms or something, right? And my mom's like, oh, what about the uppers? Because like if you're extracting the lowers, like, you know, logic says if you're not, in dentistry, you extract the uppers too.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, do you have your upper wisdoms? And she's like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know how many teeth I have, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe I have the width. Like, what's a wisdom? And he's like, you should know. I'm like, I got a little upset. I'm like, what the hell? Like you should, but it underscores the importance of, communication, right?
Yeah.
Because what he meant, which I found out after the fact was, you would know if you got those extracted, right? Because
Yeah.
it would be a procedure, you would
It's
know they're
happened
gone.
in the past. Yeah.
It's happened in the past, but I think the way he said it, he's like, like you'd know, or like you should know. I'm like, wow, that's
Almost like a
really rude.
condescending. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how the hell do you not know if you have like your teeth? It's like it's not
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
simple, right?
And it's so
Um,
funny because like even patients, you'll ask them, hey, do you have your wisdom teeth? You haven't seen the x-ray or anything? And they're like, I don't know. Because like they don't know, man. What if they're impacted and they've never come in? I don't know if I've had them or if I have them in my mouth right now. So no, you're totally right, man. Like it's I think as dental professionals, we need to take a step back and give the patient a little bit more, more understanding because they don't always know the same amount of information we're after, right? So you're totally right. That's unfortunate that happened. But I think communication, I struggle with communication a lot though, because when patients, question me or, maybe they're upset about something I did, instead of taking Dr. Aurora's approach to, ask for criticism and be, warm and fuzzy, I get defensive sometimes. And I don't like that part about me. Um, I don't know. How do you react to stuff like that?
Definitely not. Thank you for the criticism.
Yeah,
Def,
no,
def,
no, absolutely not.
definitely not that approach. No, I'm like you. I'm like, no one likes to feel stupid, right? Like no one likes to
No.
feel like they're being questioned, even though it's probably a valid question. Um, yeah, man, I don't know. I just try to like usually I'll just say the same thing again in different words. Like that's my
Yeah.
approach. 90% of the time, it's like, you know, you we'll send you to, we have to send to in the school, we have to send to like a different department. And like if they're like, well, we don't understand why are you just bouncing us around. It's like, no, 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 no. Like and just say the same thing in different words. But I don't know. What do you use to diffuse the situation?
Oh, man. I don't even know because sometimes you get so focused on what you're going to say next, you don't even listen to what the patient is going to say, and it's going to be negative, and then it just builds up from there. So that's what I've been really working on lately is, trying to diffuse the situation. Sometimes accepting blame, even if it's unwarranted, diffuses the situation, and just apologizing and saying, man, teeth don't always work out the way that we want to. And then my go-to now is often, this would be on, say, an elderly person, maybe, in their 70s, and I'll be like, but isn't, and I always say this, but isn't it cool that you've had that tooth since you were 6 years old? And then it almost puts it in perspective. They're like, oh, I've had this tooth for the last like 64 years. And yeah, it may not be working the way that I want it to. And it just almost makes it okay that something isn't working out the way that the patient thought it was going to. So making them realize that we're dealing with the human body has really helped me. But it's still, it's a kick in the balls, man, when someone's like, this sucks, or I'm getting food caught here and you told me I wasn't going to have that. And you can't control everything, man. And that's the tough part of dentistry, is managing expectations. And I wanted to get into that with Dr. Arora, but we could talk for a whole hour about expectations. I think expectations are what lead to dentists hating their jobs, is managing patient expectations.
Yeah, for sure. And like, just to touch on that criticism point again, I remember, when I first started the podcast, like the first podcast, when I first started the Majestic Mutt, I remember I did the intro episode. I labored over this one episode for hours and hours and hours and hours. And like every, background noise, like right now I can hear, my girlfriend in the kitchen, like shuffling things around. I can hear my dog every time he like licks up his like water, like eats his food, right? Like you can hear all this stuff, but it's like, I would like labor over all these little details, and then I would send it to everyone I knew, right? Not everyone I knew, but like, like 30 people I knew. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Hey, like, just give me your feedback, right? And some people would be like, okay, cool, great. And I'm like, yeah, sweet, great. And then other people would send like paragraphs upon paragraphs. And I'm like, at a certain point, like, you really stop caring and you really just looking for, affirmation, right? Like, this is great.
I think you're hitting something here, buddy. Yeah.
It's like, this is great. I don't really need, because whatever you notice, I probably noticed too. And I just kind of said, it's good, unless it's a complete blind spot, right? Unless I said something or did something that was like completely, in my blind spot and I didn't see it. But otherwise, I feel like when people ask for criticism, they're really looking for affirmation and reassurance.
Dude,
what do you think?
You nailed it. Like, relate that back to dentistry now. Every Sunday, without fail, for the last 14 years, every single Sunday, whether I'm on vacation or not, I call all my sedation patients from that week. So say there's 25 patients or 30 patients or 5 patients, whatever. I will call each and every one of them every Sunday. And I can't have a good weekend until I'm done doing that, for them to say, hey, I have no swelling. How did you do that? Like, man, you're awesome. You're awesome. Everything's going great. You're awesome. And I would hold my breath for that one person to say, I'm in so much pain. This isn't what I thought it would be. And I feel like crap, but I'm looking for affirmation every time I'm doing that. And that just clicked in while you were saying that. So man, this is a lot of self-actualization going on here. I I like it. But you're totally right though. Like, I think the reason I do that is for affirmation that I'm doing a good job, that I'm helping people the way that I'm supposed to. So interesting, man. Interesting.
Well, it'd be kind of weird if you called in and you were like, hey, this is Dr. Necky. Just want to confirm that like I'm still a badass, and you're gonna tell your family members about me. Like, is that cool? Like, yeah, it's like no one does that, right? It's like me setting up the podcast, be like, hey, do you mind just checking this over and just tell me that, like, I'm really insecure about this. I'm really nervous and self-conscious about putting like my voice out there, but like, can you just tell me I did a good job? Like, that'd be a little strange. But like, kind of, that's what you expect, right? So now when people ask me for criticism, which I didn't really get into the pod about, but when people ask me for criticism, unless it's something like blatantly obvious, because, here's another thing. I was watching this thing on Netflix. It was called, is it Schultz? Anyway, that's what, you watch it?
Yeah, with Jonah Hill.
Yeah. So Jonah Hill and his therapist like basically do a one-on-one. They do a whole documentary on it. It goes into
it's wicked.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Phil
and it
Schultz,
goes, Schultz, and it goes into the deep life of Jonah Hill, and it also highlights the therapist quite a bit. But what Jonah Hill says is, he said, it's funny, Dr. Schultz, like, all my friends who are completely inexperienced to give me advice want to give me as much advice as possible, but you don't give me any advice and you never tell me what to do. So the people that shouldn't be telling me what to do, tell me what to do. And the people that, should really be telling me what to do, which is my therapist, never tell me what to do and let me come to my own conclusions. And like that one really hit here for me. And I was like, you know what? Like there is one of the intro of this podcast, life's a string of pearls, and there's one of a million ways of doing anything. So it's like, who am I to say, like maybe the audio is kind of shit there. Like maybe, you shouldn't post that on Instagram because, X, Y, or Z. It's like, what do I know? Like, I'm just here to encourage you, man. Like, do what you want to do. That's what people look for, I think.
I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more. And just be positive to people. And you're totally right. Unless it's like blatantly, glaringly offside, man, just tell people that they're doing a good job because they're trying so hard. And no, I hear you, man. We could talk a whole episode about this, man.
This is just the after show. This is just Tooth
I know, right?
The Tooth Hurty show. We need a name. Someone needs to come up with a name for the show. Not the whole show, but the after show.
The 2:30 show. 2:30 show.
That's
lame, man. I'm not liking that.
Cool. I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. See you next week. Thanks, guys.